All right, hey, one of our favorites reached out this weekend, shared me his latest college football hourglass projections for the SEC. I said, I got to get him back on the show. Jake Wimberly, ESPN Radio out of the state of Mississippi. Jake, how's it going, brother?
Michael, it's doing good. President's Day, so trying to get some work done on a holiday here. And I appreciate you having me on today.
Yeah, Jake, oh, bad. Bad. Well, you're going to get me in trouble already. People think I already hate the Gators because I'm a Tennessee grad. I got nothing against the Gators, even though they beat Tennessee, what is it, like 16 out of 18? But that's neither here nor there because according to your model, this is the number one. We'll get into all these teams, Jake, but the number one team that stood out. I don't know what Billy Napier did to you, Jake. You got the Gators, your model, I should say. Florida going 2-10. 2-10, Jake. I mean, if this happens, I mean, I don't know if Billy Napier sees October.
No, he probably doesn't, right? So let me give a little backstory. And like you and I spoke about off the air is, I'll have all this stuff ready to go and where you can read about it, podcast on it here, coming up in about a month, right at the end of March Madness, where I'm working through all the conferences right now. We start with the Southeastern Conference and then work through, all the Power Four now conferences and the G5 conferences, and then of course I'll have my playoff projections and all that stuff. But I started with the SEC, and now that recruiting is over, at least this cycle, we will have another transfer portal window, so there'll be an opportunity for guys to move around a little bit. But I said, hey, I think we've got enough data to really start turning out what win totals will look like, working through schedules. So we'll start with Florida and just kind of a revisionist history here. The model that I use has several factors in it. One is a talent ratio model that ranks the talent of the team. So as I told you, I have combed this thing back to about 2.5 years of true recruiting numbers. And then you have to go about 2 years of transfer portal numbers, because no longer can we say, hey, Alabama finished number one in recruiting, or Georgia 4 straight years have the number one roster talent in the country. Well, they may, but do they really? If you want a great example of that, look at how competitive Auburn was with Georgia and Alabama last year, and could have won both of those games. And I think a lot of that is because of the depth that Georgia and Alabama do not have any longer. So we use a talent portion of it. Returning quarterback number is part of it. A coaching staff number is part of that. What I call my impact ball catcher metric, which is highlight wide receiver rooms, because I think wide receiver rooms are extremely important in college football. And then there's the offensive and defensive efficiency portion of it. So it brings it all together to create a ranker for each team. And then I look at the games, and then what does the schedules look like? For instance, where Florida has by far the hardest schedule in the Southeastern Conference, Auburn kind of gets a pass. Ole Miss gets kind of a pass. Missouri kind of gets a pass this year. And they still have hard schedules, but nothing like Florida. So when you look at Florida, this year, and, coaching wise, Billy Napier has been one of the worst in the Southeastern Conference. Really, you can only say, if you go up to Arkansas and Vanderbilt, is there worse staffs in the conference? And then of course you look quarterback play, pretty nice quarterback play with Graham Mertz. It's kind of middle of the pack. Receivers wise, what we call impact ball catcher metric, that can be kind of middle of the pack. And then you look at Florida offensive and defensive scoring efficiency off last year and project that forward. They were 28th in the country offensively, 86th defensively. So when you compound that with a schedule for Florida that starts out with Miami, and they're going to be an underdog against the Miami Hurricanes, a very good, I think, Miami Hurricanes team. This could be the best Miami Hurricanes team we've seen in probably a decade. They're going to be an underdog in that game. If they get that win, that's going to be big. That's going to catapult them. But without just going through the whole schedule, I've got Florida with 1, 2, what I call one possession games, 3, 4, 5, about 7 possession games, meaning that those are games that could go either way. I've got them with a close loss to Texas A&M. Believe it or not, I have them a close loss on the road to Mississippi State, just because Mississippi State plays Toledo the week before. Florida plays Texas A&M the week before as well. Central Florida, I have Florida winning a close win. Then you go at Tennessee and Kentucky, and then a bye week, Georgia at Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, and Florida. I mean, look, Michael, I don't know that Ohio State and Georgia want that schedule. So they're going to be an underdog in most of those games. And if Billy Napier just gets this team, and if you believe it, look, Vegas set their win total at 6, 5.5 to 6. There's a reason for that. They set that number so they can get plays on both sides of the line, so to speak. A lot of people will say over 6 or 5.5 just because, oh, yeah, Florida for sure will. I tend to go under that. I have them at 2 wins. I think it could, equal out around 4 wins, maybe 5. Some of these one possession games, but it's going to be a tough year in Gainesville.
Yeah, but it's kind of pathetic, isn't it, Jake? Because as we've grown up, I mean, and a lot of places say this, Jake, but it's true at Florida. The standard is to compete for championships. Obviously you're not going to win one every year. Heck, Alabama and Georgia don't win one every year, but they at least compete for it. So it's just whether it's 2 wins, whether it's 5 wins, even if we go over the top and give them a bunch of these one possession games and say they win 6 or 7, is that good enough in year 3 of a coaching tenure at a place like Florida? I would argue it is not. So I don't know. I would bet you, Jake, there's a lot of Florida fans. If you gave them truth serum, they're saying, I hope we go 2-10 so we can get us a new coach in here that knows what the hell he's doing. You know what?
Yeah, no, I agree. And, that's the thing is Florida should not be in this position. I mean, Florida should be, in my estimation, where Alabama has been, not necessarily, maybe nobody's going to make that run for 10 years that Saban had, but competing for playoff spots. They need to be competing against Georgia, competing against Texas, competing against the Oklahomas of the SEC. And for whatever reason, outside of Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer, Dan Mullen with 1 New Year's Six-Day Bowl, Jim McElwain, I think maybe had a 9-win season. It just hasn't happened there for some reason. And I think there has to start being some self-evaluation of why that is the case at a place like Florida where they should be at the top and they should expect to be there.